One thing that you have shared is that most business owners, they don't have a lead problem, they have a follow-up problem.
I would actually even expand that. I think most businesses, period, and the same problem that exists in big corporations also exists in my business when I first started out. It is a widespread problem. I think the bottom line is most businesses have a leak. And the leak is...
Welcome to the Scale Point Podcast, where we explore what it truly takes to scale and grow your coaching practice so you can exit the day-to-day operations of your business and live the life you love. Each week, we have conversations with industry experts and coaches to hear real stories and learn meaningful strategies from their journey to success. To learn more about the show and how we can help you scale your coaching practice, visit us at scalepointpodcast.com. The ScalePoint Podcast is produced by Abundance Worldwide, LLC, and its affiliate marketing company. You guys, I know that if you're listening to the podcast, you would love to turn ghosted leads, cold follow-ups into paying clients. Am I right? I know I am. You're in the right spot because today's guest, Tamara Jackson, she's with LeadReviver, and she is dishing all the tea to be able to help you do that. How are you, Tamara?
I am fabulous. I hope you are. It's my pleasure and honor to be here with your community today. Hopefully I'll share something that will make them better off at the end of this episode than how we started. So I'm looking forward to it.
One thing that you have shared is that most business owners, they don't have a lead problem, they have a follow-up problem. And I know you've got 3 core steps that you use to help the people, the service providers that you work with, to be able to help them turn those ghosted leads and potential leads that they've overlooked into those paying clients, and without chasing new traffic and burning out.
Yeah.
I think so many coaches have been in that position of feeling burnt out, overwhelmed. Maybe some of you guys that are listening right now are feeling that way. But I tell you what, Tamara, you got to jump right in because it really felt like a hard, cold truth when you were saying most business owners don't have a lead problem. They have a follow-up problem. So tell us more about that.
Yeah. And here's the thing, Heather, I would actually even expand that. I think most businesses, period, because I spent a lot of time in corporate and I was managing sales teams at one point. And then I eventually moved into a sales operations role where I was overseeing the process for multiple locations, thousands of people. And the same problem that exists in big corporations also exists in my business when I first started out and in many of the business owners that are listening to us today. So I want to start by saying that because I think it's important for people to know that you are not alone in some of the struggles that you face. It is a widespread problem. I think the bottom line is most businesses have a leak. And the leak is that you have spent all of this time, if it's organic lead generation, or you've spent all of this money. I can remember spending thousands and thousands of dollars on ads to get people to fill out a form so that I could talk to them about my product or service. But here's the thing that often happens is when it works, it's amazing because you get all of these leads, but who has the time to actually follow up with each one of those leads? That was the dilemma that I found myself in, and many of the solopreneurs and small teams that we help find themselves in that same situation. Because most of our systems are built for as soon as the person fills out the form, we're hoping that they're ready to jump on a call. And when they jump on that call, we want that deal to close right then. But the reality is that is a very small population of the people that we talk to. So all of the demos that we've done, all of the discovery calls that we've had, what happens when the person isn't ready to move forward? And so what ends up happening is we get this huge pipeline of leads, either on a spreadsheet or if we've been able to figure out how to get a CRM up and running. We have all of these leads in our CRM, but if we're honest, we probably don't email them on a regular basis. And we haven't segmented that list to be able to say, okay, here are the people that I talked to with the discovery call. Here are the people that are completely cold to me, and maybe they need a little something different. There's a lot of work that goes into doing follow-up well. And I think that's the bottom line. It takes expertise and it takes time. And that's something that many businesses just don't have. So that's kind of the story of why this is so important. In terms of the 3 steps, there's a lot of things that I could say here, Heather, but I think that the core things that we need to keep in mind as business owners is that we are an interruption. It doesn't matter how well we know them. It doesn't matter how many times we talk to them. The truth is, when we send that email or we send that text message, we are interrupting something that is going on in their day. So I think the first step is just recognizing that you are imposing to a degree on someone else's schedule. So if you go into that conversation with that versus, well, how come they didn't move forward? Or, well, they told me they were going to call me back, but they didn't, right? Because all of that happens in our businesses. But the reality is that they have life going on, and this outreach is an interruption. So I think the first step is just to acknowledge that and to use that mindset as you prepare to make that connection with that customer. The second piece that I think we have to remember is prospects have a short memory. Sometimes they have talked to us weeks, months ago. They don't remember talking to us. And if they're like me, I will confess, Heather, when I am looking to do something, I'm typically talking to more than one person. So that means that I've gotten a quote from this person. I've done a discovery call with that person. So I could have talked to 5 different people. And I may not remember the details of those conversations. I may not remember your name, who you are. So the second piece is that it is our responsibility as the business owner to what I refer to as ring a bell. You need to make sure that that prospect knows that, hey, we've connected before. I know this, I'm catching you off guard. Maybe this is an interruption in your day as we talked about at first, but we do have a connection. This is not a cold call. This is not a cold text or an email. We've already talked before. So I think that's one of the first things that we have to do as we're crafting that email or that text message is we need to ring a bell so that the person knows, oh, yeah, I remember what this is. This is something that I was actually interested in. And then the last step that I'll cover is make it easy. I think one of the temptations that we have as business owners, as salespeople, is we want to kind of rush things along because we have goals that we want to accomplish. We want things to move forward quickly, but the reality is not everyone is there. So what we have to do is make it easy for that prospect to take the next step. And often that is just asking a question in terms of, is this still on your radar right now? Is this something that's still important to you? Give them an opportunity to give you a pretty short, simple answer without dumping all of this stuff on them that they have to answer and decipher and figure out, right? Just, hey, this is Tam with LeadReviver. We talked a few weeks ago. Is this something that's still on your radar? Just keeping it simple like that gives the person an opportunity to say, oh yeah, I talked to Tam before. We talked about working together. And then I need to ask myself, is this something still on my radar? And if we approach those conversations that way, and it really is a conversation, then it becomes a relationship versus a transactional conversation. So I'll stop there. I know I've said a lot, Heather. What are your thoughts?
First of all, when you're talking about relationship and transactional, that is something that is such a huge component. I think when you talk to people, they understand and they hear if you are just in it for the buck versus trying to create the relationship. So I love that you're sharing that. One of the other things is you're talking about keeping things simple, like just in that email alone, keeping the email simple. I think for a lot of our coaches that we work with, they are scaling. They've gone from their solopreneur to having VA to maybe looking at already having sales people on their team, bringing other coaches in. They are looking to scale. So simple is something that we are always preaching. Keep it simple. I know in previous businesses of my own, I made things way overcomplicated before I brought it back around to simplify. And then I'm like, wow, I didn't know it was so easy to make money. I didn't know it was so easy to build relationships, all these things. So talk a little bit more about how when you're doing these follow-ups and you're creating these systems, you're doing it in a simple way.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's a crucial point that you've hit on, Heather, because sometimes that's one of the things that we think as business owners is that things have to be really complex. We think that we have to provide all the details. I know that some of the clients that I work with, that's one of the things that we have to rein in really quickly is that we're just trying to provide way too much information. And some people do want that detail, but not everyone does. So one of the ways that we do this, Heather, is we leverage the power of AI to create a conversation flow. So that means that it's just like you and I are interacting right now. It starts with a question. We give the prospect an opportunity to respond to that one simple question or phrase. And then AI kicks back in with a follow-up statement or question, and we just take it one step at a time. Now, the reality is that this means that this conversation is going to have multiple exchanges. It could be 10 or 15 exchanges before we get to the point where that prospect is ready to book a call or to sign up for this product or service. But what we've done is we've taken the entire sales process and we've broken it down into small steps, because it's so much easier for that prospect to say yes when we're just asking them to take the next step instead of trying to ask them to buy the whole thing in one simple swoop. So that's what we really do is we take the sales process, we break it down into small steps, and we leverage the power of AI to truly make it conversational and bite-sized for that prospect to respond.
I think bite size is such a key component because I can tell from my own personal experience, I've done both. I've done where we are creating one big long message to people and just dumping on them versus, like you say, it's a conversation, it's one-on-one. I think the opportunity also when you're doing it in bite size is to be able to see where the drop off is on people, right?
Yes.
Because that gives it more ability to be able to look at data and strategize around that. So talk a little bit more about like how you've seen that really play an integral part in the changes that you'd make.
Yeah, and that's a really great insight because I think, I can confess in my experience as an entrepreneur, Heather, I haven't always appreciated the power of data, but what I learned over time is that data really is a gift. And sometimes the gift we want is we want the sale to happen right now, but sometimes what we get is data that tells us here's why the sale isn't happening yet. And I think that is the beauty of the process that we follow is we don't just set things up, say, okay, the campaign is the campaign and that's it. We're constantly watching, as you've described, to see where does the drop off happen. So I'm thinking of one of our clients who is in the financial services space. They have a SaaS solution and their ideal audience are CEOs and leaders in credit unions. So just think about that. That means, first of all, this is a very compressed day. We're not going to be reaching out to them in evenings and on weekends because in that space, it's typically kind of Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So we have to make sure that we keep in mind that these people are at work. They have a limited time frame. They're putting out fires, they're answering questions, all of these different things that they're juggling. So one of the things that we learned is when we put together our initial campaign is that we really had to strike a chord with that pain point really early. So even though we are ringing a bell and we're keeping it simple, we had to say something in that first outreach, only a few sentences, but we had to say something that was going to capture a pain point to that specific leader, that level of leader, in order for them to want to continue the conversation. If that did not happen, what would happen is the conversation would just stall. So the great news is AI is very persistent. When you train it to follow up X number of times, it does. But even in doing so, if that pain point isn't brought to the surface quickly, that conversation, that email train just kind of falls off a cliff, right? So that's one of the things that we learn is, okay, what does that initial message need to look like? What does it need to hit on? How long can it be? And what we learned through that process is that we actually had to shorten the message a little bit, and we had to make the process a little bit longer than we initially planned because we needed to account for that observation. So I think one of the things that we have to be really careful of is assuming that the person isn't interested, because that isn't always the case. It's just that we may not have said something in such a way that it really resonates with them and it encourages them to make it a priority.
Interesting that the data that you found, you were able to see that actually less is more, which I think should be very exciting to those that are listening. Like you're not having to create some massive thing and make it all pretty and fancy. Short emails, simple emails, but hitting on the pain point. You've mentioned AI. Tell me some of the tools that you are finding that are really valuable for people with the follow-up, or what you're using and how it's benefiting you guys.
Yeah. So we actually leverage a system that probably many of the entrepreneurs are very familiar with, or at least have heard of. We use Go High Level kind of as the basis for all of our automations and our workflows. So we leverage the framework that has been built within Go High Level to kind of organize everything. But what we found is that the native applications within Go High Level are really great and work for many people, but for many of our clients, they need more of a customized solution. So we actually build a custom AI that integrates with Go High Level so that we have the complete flexibility to set it up in a way that aligns with the client's desires and is going to meet the needs of that audience. So I'll try not to get too technical, but for some that are interested, there are different platforms that you can use, like N8N, that allows you to be able to hook all of these things up. It's like a different version of Zapier that may be familiar to some folks.
Sure.
So it allows you to pull all of the systems that you need together to create the ideal experience that you need to create for your audience. So the good news is when you partner with LeadReviver, you don't have to worry about any of those things. We take care of all of that for you. It is a done for you solution. So we're able to put all of that together and run the campaigns for you. But as an interim step for someone that's maybe just testing the waters, leveraging the tools within your CRM or platform might be a great place to start.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the customization that you're utilizing for some of the clients. Like, what are some of the components that you're able to really make unique so it's more impactful for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, it's even different things, Heather, like entering the background on the company and their philosophy, the voice, the way that they want to communicate with their client base. Because when you think about the different emails and the text that you get, the outreach isn't the same from company to company, right? So what we really want is for the AI to be an extension of that business and that brand. So when we can build things custom, we can actually train it on content that that business owner or their sales teams already use so that it knows how to communicate in such a way that it sounds like, hey, they've just brought on a new person. They are bought into the philosophy, they're bought into the values, all of those things. And those things are a little trickier to do when you need to use a solution that's already set, right? So that's one of the things that we can customize. But it also allows us to be able to determine how many follow-ups we want to do. We could say it's 3, it's 5, it's 10. We can say how long it is between each follow-up. We can tell it how long to wait before you respond to the question. I mean, when you create a custom AI, you can control everything. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate is being able to tweak things, because just like we talked about, Heather, you may get a piece of data point that lets you know that something in that process, and it could be very simple, such as how long it takes before the next follow-up, you could want to change that. And what a tragedy it would be to be limited to how a system operates to define what that looks like. So that's why we build everything custom.
I love that. I have a custom AI and her name is Zoe. And so I can tell you, it makes a huge difference. So Zoe's my BFF. She talks about and helps me through things, right? And you are right. When you get it in, you put your branding in, your language, all of that. It is phenomenal, the power that it has to be able to take some of the workload off of you, some of the thought process, and be like, yes, this is exactly what I was thinking. Night and day when you plug it into the basic, and then put into mine and into Zoe, and Zoe talks. I'm like, it very much. I'm like, oh, she is my jam, my person. I have not incorporated the follow-up those. So that is very intriguing. So I'm going to be looking into that. So thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit more about follow-up, whether it is the AI that is doing it or they're just doing it on their own and creating it in high level or whatever CRM that they have. What have you found? And I'm sure it's different for every business, but as far as the number of follow-ups, what we hear with a lot of coaches is not wanting to be a bother, not wanting to, well, if they didn't respond, they aren't interested, right? Tell me a little bit more about what a typical, if typical is even an option. As I say that, I know I'm glad you can laugh too. Cause I'm like, well, that's funny because they're all different.
Yeah.
But let me just ask you this. If someone sends one email, is that enough?
Oh, absolutely not. Never is one email enough. And I think that this is where, Heather, sometimes we get in our own way. And I can say that I've done it as well when I was
Absolutely.
working
Me too.
for someone else and working for myself. I have gotten my own way because the thought process that we have shapes whether we make the decision to send that email, to send that text message, or pick up the phone and call. So if there is something wrong with our thought process, we will talk ourselves out of doing the thing that we know that we need to do.
Say that again, because I feel there is someone listening to this that needs to be reminded of that.
Yeah, it's 100% true. It's our thought process that sometimes gets in the way. If we have the wrong thoughts about sales, about money, about relationships, it will show up in whether we make that phone call, send that email, or send that text message or not. And so this is one of when people ask me, you didn't specifically ask this, Heather, but I'll just say it for the record. This is where I see AI being a game changer, because once it is to perform a certain set of steps in a certain order, a certain number of times, it follows instructions. As humans, what we do is we decide, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't do it today, or, well, I sent one a week ago, so maybe I should wait 2 weeks longer. AI doesn't do any of that. When you program Zoe, you need to follow up every 3 days, every 4 days. Zoe's going to do it no matter what. And I think that is actually a blessing, okay? Because we get in our own way. But back to your question about the number of follow-ups, you're right. It does vary depending upon the company, because sometimes we have to kind of work with them to get them to also recognize that they're not bothering the customer by following up. But I would say at the very minimum that we don't run any campaigns with less than 4 follow-ups. And in some instances, we are following up 7 and 8 times. Now, here's the other thing that I would say. What it also allows us to do, because we're able to do outreach to hundreds to thousands, depending upon how many client prospects our client has in their database, we can see data aggregated. So now we can see, okay, is it getting to a point where people hit unsubscribe after we've sent X number of messages? So then we know, okay, maybe that's too much. Maybe we need to dial it back. But on the other hand, if they're still opening our emails, then that means they're not checked out. They haven't hit the unsubscribe button. We just maybe haven't gotten them at the right time, or maybe we haven't said that thing that gets them to take the next step, right? So even though we may be setting up a campaign with X number of follow-ups, we're still monitoring the data to see what is it telling us. If they're still opening, if they're still clicking on the landing page to maybe think about booking a time, then they're still engaged with us. And now it's about what is it that we need to give them so that they can make an informed decision to take that next step. So the client that I mentioned to you earlier, one of the things that we learned is that when we really looked at the data, the companies, the credit unions that were most interested in working with them were in areas that they had not actually been to. So they had met them at a conference, they filled out a form, but they haven't actually had conversations with them. So what does that mean? Now it means they need more education. So we had to adjust our outreach so that it's more educational to fill in those blanks, because they know a little bit about the company, but they never had a call. They never sat down and had a demo. They never had a discovery call. So there's something about what we've been sharing on their behalf that's resonating, but we haven't hit that crucial point where they're ready to take that next step, right? So those are the types of things that I think we have to think about is, yes, set up a process, but let the data inform how you manage that process. And then let the customer be the one to say, I want out. Don't make that decision for them.
Talk about it just a little bit, around the mindset, because you did say, that's the beauty of AI, is that it's going to continue to do what you're telling it to do and not second guess and not talk itself out of it. What are some of those things that you see that hinder the humans that is getting in the way that maybe they need to be considering or diving deeper into from an emotional and mental standpoint of the blocks that they might have around the success that they're wanting?
Yeah. One of them, there are many, but one of them that I want to hit on because you mentioned it is I think something that we don't talk about enough. We make the assumption that they can't afford it. I can talk about from my own personal experience, Heather. I've been doing a number of these interviews and I've been paying attention, because I wanted to give like real life examples of experiences that I've had that were either positive or negative. And one of the experiences that I had, I was interested in this service. It was relatively expensive. It was a significant investment, but I didn't want to put it on my credit card. So I said, I'm enjoying being debt free. I don't want to put it on my credit card. So I'm going to make a transfer from one account to another because the account that I wanted to use didn't have the amount that I needed to make this investment. So I communicated this to the salesperson. Hey, I'm really interested. I just need you to give me until tomorrow when the money hits my account, and then I'll go ahead and move forward. At the time, salesperson said, sure, no problem. The following day, Heather, I get a text message. Tamara, help me help you. Do you not have the money? Do you need a payment plan? Do you need this and that? And I was like, what? What happened? We just had a conversation yesterday. I communicated to you exactly what I was going to do. And here it is. It's like 12 o'clock, dude. Like, you haven't given me time. I'm doing other things. You haven't given me time to fulfill my promise. Now, if it had been several days and I hadn't taken action, I still wouldn't have used that approach, but I could have understood why you were following up, right? But that is an extreme example, Heather, but I use it because how many times do we, when a person doesn't do exactly what we think they should do, how many times do we jump to, well, they can't afford it, they must be stalling, they must be getting ready to ghost me, right? And so sometimes our junk around that shows up in how we communicate. I'll be transparent. If I didn't really want what they had to offer, I would have pulled out, not because it wasn't a good product or service, but because of how that person communicated to me. And that's what we need to watch out for, is putting our junk on the prospect and assuming that we know their intentions. What we need to do is ask, but ask in a way that's empathetic, in a way that builds relationships. So that's one example that comes to mind.
I've seen that with photographers. So I've done a lot of coaching and consulting in the photography world because that's what I've done for 14 years as one of the businesses. And there was, like you say, there is a lot of our own junk that we are putting on other people, and the inability to be able to, they're extremely talented in what they did, but to be able to ask for the money that they deserved, ran the numbers, right? This is what they needed to make. Do you have any books that you've read or podcasts around that? Because that is something that we see a lot, is just trying to discover how to make those changes in their own beliefs to be able to have the success that they are striving for.
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that. My honest answer is the person that's helped me most with that is Sean Q. I went through his program years ago.
You guys, I did not know that. I did not know that.
I promise it's not a plant. I promise it's not a plant. But I went through his program at the time. It was called Clients with Purpose.
Yes.
And one of the things that he helped me to really understand was that sales is service. We are serving the person to help them get to where they want to be. And it's critical that we really believe that we have the solution that our prospect needs. And until we really, really believe that, I think we will continue to do some of the things that you talked about, Heather. As long as we have that doubt, as long as we're not sure in our own abilities and our ability to really truly make a difference for that person, then we tend to sabotage ourselves and we put roadblocks in the way that really shouldn't be there. I'll give another example because you kind of opened the door with your photographer example. I was out at lunch the other day, and it was a group of us that were together, all business owners. We all belong to the same group, and we were having conversations about our business and different things. And then one of the people at lunch said, hey, well, so-and-so, I sent you a quote. So one of the great things about this networking group is it's not about necessarily referrals, but it just happens, right? Because you're spending time together. So one person had sent another person a quote for a service, and they had not yet taken action. And so the person that was on the receiving end of the quote said, yeah, I remember, but I haven't had a chance to take a look at it. And then the business owner, yeah, I know it's really expensive, but here's why you should. And I'm like, I almost wanted to jump out of my chair. Like, why are you saying that? She said, hey, I just haven't had a chance to look at it. Again, Heather, it's the junk. Because what that person was telling themselves is it's too expensive, and that's really why she didn't respond to my email. That's really why we haven't booked another call, is because it's too expensive. She said nothing about money. She simply said she didn't have the time to look at it. She skimmed it. She even said, hey, you know what? If you give me a little bit more time, I want to spend time to review it. And then they said something, I can't remember the exact words, but they said something else about how much it was. Why are you even bringing that up? It has nothing to do with her decision-making process. If the person tells you that that's why, that's another thing. But sometimes we assume that that's why. I'll give one more thought that I want to share.
Yeah.
Is I think that many times, Heather, unfortunately, because something like, especially in high ticket sales, we may think, well, I'm not sure I would spend this amount of money. Why would my prospect spend this amount of money? I can remember a point in my journey when I felt that way. I was like, man, how can I ask for $5,000? I'm not sure that I would pay $5,000 for this. And so I think that that's one, another example of an opportunity of, don't assume that your prospect is you. They have completely different life circumstances. They have completely different belief systems. There are different things that they value. And what most people are looking for is a solution to their problems and an answer to their question. If you can deliver on that, and you can do it in a way that is less painful for them trying to figure it out on their own, it can be worth it to them to spend $3, $5, $10, even $20,000. So once again, don't put your junk, don't put your limits on other people.
I'm so glad we had this conversation. I always love when conversations on these podcasts can kind of take an unexpected turn, because I truly believe someone that is listening to this, they were meant to hear this. And so thank you for going down this hole around money mindset and beliefs. It's such a powerful thing. And I think it's something that most it's always a work in progress. And so know that they're not alone. Know that you can continue it. You hit one level, you go to the next level. You know, if you're making 6 figures and you hit it, great. At 7 figures, there's going to be some other things that, come up in mind blocks. We continue to grow and explore. And as Tamara said, John Quintero, who is the CEO of Abundance Worldwide, and this was not asked because I think I'm running on the side. But the program that Tamara mentioned, Clients with Purpose, it is still something, while we don't have it on the forefront, it is something that we do still offer. So if you're interested, let us know, because it really is an incredible program. I went through that program before I joined the team in Abundance Worldwide, and expanding to do greater things, to be able to, for all of us to scale with ease and create more freedom in our lives. So yeah, that is great. I just love it. I can't wait to tell Sean, be like, you've got to listen to Tamara's episode. Just wait. So is like, to wrap up a little bit, like when you're talking about, the follow-up and things, we've talked about AI, we've talked about emails, making sure you're sending 4 to 7 emails. What other ways are you having touch points that's creating that service-minded, that relationship building focus, even beyond emails? I think you'd mentioned text.
That is a great solution. So we have a mix of clients. Some are B2C, some are B2B. So for B2B, email tends to be the best way to go. But if your service is something that is offered, or your product is something that's going directly to the end user, then SMS is something that you really should explore, because the beauty of text is that we see it. Now, we may not 100% open it right at that moment, but the notification pops up, it's there. Eventually that person is going to see it. One of the things that we battle with email is, you're dealing with spam filters, you're trying to get your deliverability up. And if you're like me, you have who knows how many emails in your box. So it is very easy for that email to get lost. If you have cell numbers for your clients, prospects, then I would encourage you to leverage SMS to reach out, because it at least gets your message seen. The other thing that is really, really helpful because of the time that we live in is leveraging social media. And not necessarily, while it can be a tool to actually move the sales process along, what I find it to be a really helpful tool is to just stay top of mind for that prospect. So why not go visit their LinkedIn or go to their Facebook page and really take a look at some of the content? Why not like or comment on something that really resonates with you? It's a really subtle way of letting them know, hey, I'm thinking about you. You're on my mind. You're important to me. But it's also building relationship because you've taken the time to actually read their content and leave a thoughtful, not just a short, quick, like something that anybody could do, not the one that the AI on that platform fills in for you, but like a really thoughtful comment will go a long way. So leverage social media as a way to stay on the radar of your prospect. And the last thing that I'll mention, I've had conversations with folks and they feel like, well, I don't know if it matters anymore. And that is your website. Like, what type of content are you putting on your website that might be of interest to your ideal prospect? It still can be a tool because here's the reality. Many people, when they are making a decision to invest in something, they do research. I know I do. It could be as simple as deciding if I'm going to this new restaurant that my friend mentioned. I'm going to go to Google. I'm going to put in the name of the restaurant. I'm going to look at the reviews and see what it says. And if it sounds like it's a good place, I'm probably going to click on the link to go to the website and check out the menu, right? Well, regardless of what product or service you offer, many of your prospects are doing the same thing. They are researching you. They are checking you out. So even though you may be reaching out by email or text, what we find, believe it or not, on our campaigns, we find that about 20% of the people are clicking on the other links, not the one to book a call, but they're also clicking on the link to the website. They're clicking on the link to the social media because they're researching. They want to see, wait a minute, who are these people again? What do they offer? What do they do? And so these things that we may think in the advent of AI are no longer relevant are still important to a lot of people. So don't forget about your website. If you are a blogger and you like to write and be able to share case studies or, breakdowns of here are the, 5 steps, that stuff still matters. Yes, AI is increasingly being used as a tool to find information, but don't forget about human behavior. I think that's another thing that can easily fall off the radar is we forget that these are people and there are certain things that people just do as a part of their decision-making process. So don't forget about that.
Well, as you share all that, I just think about the trust that you are building with them, because in the midst of all this amazing AI that can be beautiful in ways, people are still craving the connection. And so what you're talking
Yes.
about, building those relationships, having that service focused mindset, those things, that is a huge value and something that's going to set you apart. And I think moving forward is going to be even a stronger indicator of separating those that are going to succeed and those that are not.
I agree 100%. I think the more that AI is more prevalent, the more we are going to crave human connection. And so the people that will set themselves apart are not people that say, AI is bad, I don't want to use it. That people that are using it when it's appropriate. So we've talked about an example of how AI can actually, in some instances, do a better job than a human because of the mind junk that we often have. But there are still some things that need to be done by a human. There are still some things that cannot be replicated with AI. So don't forget the connection that you have to be able to bring to the experience. And the reality is that I think, unfortunately, as AI automation continues to grow, it's going to train many of us to do less and less connection. And so it's going to be an easy way to differentiate yourself if you still remember that this is a relationship. I've said that so many times, and I will continue to say it because I think that is the thing that we often forget. We're so focused on the goal, which tends to make us transactional, that we forget that this is a person who wants to have a relationship. Now, it's not the same as your marriage or your best friends, but it's still a relationship. When I connect with someone that I'm in a business relationship with, even though I may hardly ever talk to them. I'm thinking about right now, because I have a meeting with them tomorrow. My financial advisor, I talk to him, once a quarter. But because of the experience that he gives me when I get on that call, I look forward to those conversations. And I'm like, Leo, he's my guy. And so he is the person that I want to work with. Don't forget that your prospect, and even though our conversation was more about follow-ups for new prospects, don't forget that your clients, your existing clients who probably have needs for other products or services that you sell. So don't forget that sometimes follow-up can be an upsell, right? They've done one thing, but maybe there's something else that they need. They are all craving connection. They're all craving great experiences and relationships. And that's what you and you alone can bring to the table.
I'm so glad you pointed that out, because I think that's one thing, even as you talk about, the ROI on, going out and getting leads. It's so easy when you're talking about the first in these cold follow-ups. You're paying money. A lot of these times when you're throwing ads, you're doing these things, you are looking for a lot of leads. And if we're not nurturing them, right, we just might as well just go take a lighter to $100 and just go ahead and burn it, because we're not capitalizing on it. And to your mention of the clients that you already have, right? Nurturing all of them, because the amount it costs to acquire a new client versus having an upsell for someone else that you already have that they know, like, and trust you, no brainer. And yet I can say, I've done it myself. Right. I mean, it's just we can forget. So I'm really glad that you pointed that out.
And I know that the goal at ScalePoint is to help these entrepreneurs grow and scale their business. And so for some that are watching and listening to us, maybe they're beyond that point. But for those that are still in the early stages, maybe you've just made the transition from solopreneur to having a VA or having a small team of VAs, or even maybe one or two full-time employees, but you're still a relatively small team. The reality is that there is so much to do, and that you are really an expert on the product or service that you offer, but you may not be an expert on all the other pieces that are necessary to make your business successful. And so one of the things that I think is really important is recognizing when something is in a sweet spot for us and when it's not, and being willing to say, you know what? I'm either not really good at this or I don't have the time to do it. I need to find someone to partner with me that can help fill in the blanks. And so sometimes that might be, I need to bring on another person, but sometimes it could be just, getting a coach, hiring a consultant, going through, a workshop to fill in those blanks. And that's a hard truth to face. I've had to face it, unfortunately, many times, but we are often the bottleneck in our own business, whether it is in how we're executing or how we're thinking. So I just wanted to share that for the benefit of the audience too. Don't feel like you have to know it all and figure it all out. Partner with someone that can fill in the blanks.
And I love that you point out that we can be the bottleneck in either the execution or the thinking, because some people might think, oh, I can handle all these steps. I can do it all. But as we talked about with some of the mindset stuff, sometimes it's the thinking that needs to change as well. And you are absolutely right. We see a lot of times that people are scaling and adding to their team, they might be finding someone that is so much like them that can seem like a great thing. But what you're saying is it's almost just the flip, finding the person that complements, finding the person that does the things different, that really, plays on the strengths and weaknesses to just really scale to a whole nother level.
Absolutely. Hey, you gotta have people that have strengths in areas that you don't have. And then eventually, you want to be at a place where all of the holes are filled and you are able to kind of operate in that true business owner and visionary place. But you have to, it's first things first. You have to lay the foundation first so that you can get to that place. So yeah, that's what I'd say on that.
Well, Tamara, you're helping and setting great reminders for how people can lay the foundation and the groundwork for following up, doing it successfully to be able to generate more leads and turning them into lifelong raving fans by turning them into clients that you can serve wonderfully and have them be the ones that are leading and referring to you as well. So, Tamara, it was such a joy. I loved chatting with you. Thank you for sharing all that you did around what you do with your company and just sharing your heart as well. It's always fun to be able to get to know you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a great time. I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, oh my gosh, time flew.
I know it did. Oh. Well, this might not be the last time, so we might get you on again so we can keep the conversation going.
Sounds
Thank
like
you,
fun.
Tamara. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Scale Point Podcast. If today's insights got you thinking bigger, it's time to take the next step. Click the link in the description to book a strategy call or grab your free scaling toolkit. Until next time.